If you ask a Path of Exile player what the strongest item in the game is, they may say Mage Blood, or perhaps a Mirror Tier Simplex Amulet. If you ask me that question, I'd say Ephemeral Edge, and it's not even close. But this is also not really a fair comparison. Mage Blood is strong because of its timeless mechanics outside of almost any balance changes. Its power is directly tied to flasks, and flasks are unlikely to be nerfed because they need to be good enough without Mage Blood. It's an item that's meant to be overpowered. It's the tier 0 chase unique for many players playing many different builds every single league. But Ephemeral Edge is different. Its power is founded upon the meta of the last several leagues. Many other factors have contributed to the strength of this item and its potential, and this is in patch 3.26, the same league where it received a massive nerf, losing 25% of its scaling. And yet, it's still incredibly strong. In fact, the 3.26 Gauntlet is coming up in just a few days' time. If you don't know, the Gauntlet is an officially supported race event run by Zizaran and his team, and it's the hardest race in Path of Exile, with the most grueling monster modifiers. The Merciless Gauntlet looks like it's going to be the most difficult gauntlet to date, and in the run-up to this event, I've been checking in with some other creators' streams to see what they're planning for the event. The Gauntlet is a class race, which means that there are separate prizes that are only available to top placements for each class, making it more interesting in terms of competition, especially in this upcoming Gauntlet, which will be using the Freesia set of ascendancies instead of the normal ones. And in almost every stream I've been hearing the same thing. Different build plans for progression and farming gear, but the plan for bossing is some form of Ephemeral Edge setup on whichever ascendancy makes the most sense for the class that it's on. And this is where things get a bit crazy, because usually you think about Ephemeral Edge and you think Trickster. Don't get me wrong, there are several really good non-Trickster builds this league using this unique, but the Trickster is the class that's able to maximize the potential of this sword through extremely efficient maximum energy shield scaling. But in the Merciless Gauntlet, there will be no Trickster. It's not an option that you can choose, and realistically, there's no real replacement for the Trickster either. There's nothing that really comes close in that regard. So, how did we get here? How is it that a tier 3 unique, even after the nerfs, is one of the most important items amongst the strongest endgame builds? Well, to understand that, we need to go back to patch 3.18, Sentinel League. In this update, the 7 Uber Pinnacle bosses were added to the game, and whilst this isn't directly related to Ephemeral Edge, this content addition is important, more on that in a moment. Then in patch 3.19, Calandra League, the crucial update came to this item. Prior to this patch, Ephemeral Edge was not a particularly useful weapon to say the least, and in the patch notes, this item now has the modifier, attacks with this weapon have added maximum lightning damage equal to 20% of your energy shield. Now initially, this change flew under the radar a bit, until it was recognised how ridiculous this was with Animate Guardian, which could just get an obscene amount of maximum energy shield, enabling a crazy amount of maximum lightning damage. And that was quickly patched out in 3.23 after it was discovered, so that it now only scaled with player energy shield. Fast forward then to 3.24, everyone's favourite league, Necropolis. Now this patch added several important pieces of the puzzle, but none more so than tier 17 maps. Uber Pinnacle bosses had already been in the game for several leagues at this point, but the addition of tier 17s was about to shift the endgame once again and shift the meta drastically, completely changing not just what content players were farming and how they were going about it, but also massively jacking up the requirements for farming that content. You needed an exceptionally strong, well-rounded build to be able to reliably farm tier 17 maps. That means a lot of checkboxes for both offense and defense. But tier 17s weren't the only addition in 3.24. There's also the Perandus Pact, a unique jewel that you may recognise. That's because it was later repackaged as the Light of Meaning, which is now a King in the Mist exclusive drop, and the maximum energy shield version of this jewel is an important part of scaling energy shield in the majority of Ephemeral Edge builds. Then we get to patch 3.25, Settlers League, and arguably the most important change that has factored into the Ephemeral Edge meta. the introduction of new, much stronger base types, enabling a lot more base defenses to be obtained from gear, with less reliance on auras. This is the change that catapulted Trickster to the top. Escape Artist combined with a well-crafted necrotic armor and Lich's Circlet provides the basis for a massive pool of energy shield to provide defense, but also offense through Ephemeral Edge. But this change wasn't just about Trickster. It just so happens that Trickster not only has great scaling, but it also has incredible tools in its arsenal to deal with Path of Exile's endgame. One step ahead to ignore tier 17 action speed modifiers, incredible recovery thanks to energy shield overleach. But the base type change of course didn't only affect the Trickster. In fact, in 3.26 we've seen the Elementalist pick up several well-performing Ephemeral Edge builds, including Eviscerate Ignite, a setup that was good in 3.25 but is considerably stronger now thanks to the Elementalist rework. Now, in Secrets of the Atlas we've also had the introduction of memory-influenced tier 16 maps, aka tier 16.5s. These maps can get really juicy, and unlike tier 17s, they can also include your favourite map layout, but they still have tier 17 modifiers, making them very difficult to farm. Once again, you need a well-rounded build. Now, a lot of the components that I've discussed here may seem small in the grand scheme of things, but they've all contributed towards the meta we have today. The endgame of Path of Exile requires a strong character. You need a good balance of both offense and defense, and the current balance in terms of how much energy shield you can reasonably obtain has meant that Ephemeral Edge is simply a ridiculously powerful item. The average EE build is around 15 to 20,000 maximum energy shield, with many builds having a lot more than that, but let's just look at that average. That's around 3 to 4 times as much effective hit pool as an average life build. And remember, these builds are CI as well, so they don't need to gear for chaos resistance either. 15 to 20,000 maximum energy shield means that Ephemeral Edge, with its current nerfed modifier, provides between 2,250 and 3,000 maximum lightning damage to attacks. That's around an average damage of between 1,125 to 1,500. That's the equivalent of a decent two-hander, or even better than that. Being able to scale your damage and defense simultaneously is good, but it's not always powerful. Just look at the current Righteous Fire scaling. The difference with Ephemeral Edge is that even after the nerf, it's still providing way too much damage for how much energy shield you can obtain in the current patch. It's also not too specific to the skill that's being used either. Last league it was Lightning Strike, this league it's Smite, and next league it will be something else when Smite gets nerfed. Ephemeral Edge in the current balance, with the current endgame, it's just exceptionally good. It's too good. And I don't think this is really a Trickster problem either. If Trickster didn't exist, another Ascendancy like the Elementalist or the Ascendant would step into its place. It may not be as good, but it would still be functional and it would simply be the next best thing. And that's exactly what I expect to see in the Gauntlet too. Endgame builds from various classes all around the tree, which kind of end up looking very similar. They're all going to be doing pretty much the same thing. And really, this should have been foreseen with the base type changes in 3.25. The sheer amount of energy shield you can obtain right now is simply ridiculous. Life builds cannot compete, and it's making the endgame meta a bit stale. What do you think about the current Path of Exile endgame? Are energy shield builds out of control? Let me know by commenting below. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.